Boopity boop beep. We are live. We're live, baby. Coach, you didn't know I was gonna do that song at first, did you, boy?
There you go. There you go.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the BKC Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are two of the facilitators and founders of the Brotherhood of Kings. I am Paul Newell. Coach, you want to introduce yourself, my guy?
I am Coach Macatela from Houston, Texas. Super excited to be here with my boy Paul, dropping some wisdom and knowledge on all the listeners.
Woo, child. And you know what, Coach? Guess what happened? There's this guy, Andrew Mans, that's in the waiting room. I think he's smiling. Oh, buddy.
It's about to get live here.
It's about, ooh, child.
I can barely hear you guys.
Really?
Turn your volume up, bro.
I got it all the way up.
I'll jump.
I hear you fine.
Yep. Andrew, can you hear me? Thank you for those that are tuning in. Listen, welcome. And we also, as we have Coach Michael Taylor, we have another one of our BKC facilitators, Andrew Mans, the chairman of Common Sense. Yes, indeed. And so it is. And so it is. Listen, I'm happy that Andrew came on the call today. And for those that are joining us, like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also put in any answers or comments that you have. This video today, I think this conversation today, I think is going to be important if you are a person that's navigating, taking the next level, or navigating what it means to be creative and imaginative. And yesterday we had a conversation. Actually, Andrew led a conversation on the topic of imagination. So, Andrew, I want to check in with you. Can you hear us better now?
I can hear you, but you're like 100 miles away.
Uh-oh. Whoa.
What about me? Can you hear me okay?
You're the same. I can barely hear you. I can hear you, but it's like you're way in the distance, so I have to pay attention.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like something on your end, bro.
I've been checking.
Whoa. Did Andrew say he's got to pay attention? Oh, listen, that's his strongest attribute. Listen, man, let's go. So, Andrew, what prompted you to have imagination as the topic for yesterday's circle?
It was a different approach to uncover some of men's hidden abilities that oftentimes we underestimate or overlook. And during the discussion, I saw people giving examples of some creative energies. And it also reminded me of, I was doing some research beforehand, of Black inventors who created things that did not exist. So what kind of mind is able to see things that other people are unable to see? That's part of imagination. Does that make sense to you?
It does, yes. So thank you, Andrew. So it makes sense. And what I'm hearing and what you're saying is you brought this up as a way to help men or to help people tap into the creative capabilities. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's on the surface, but it is a tool to get to our emotional root and bring that forward so that we become aware of that aspect of ourselves. That, from my perspective, our culture prioritizes and focus on the brain. Oh, you've got an IQ of 160, and so you're super smart and you're above everybody else. But when they focus on, my experience, when they focus on that, that's only the tip of the iceberg, because it's a heart issue. And if you look at and you study, which I have, I've studied Black Medal of Honor winners. Most people will not look at those or don't even know that there are Black Medal of Honor winners from every single war. And when you read their citation, you'll see that they did things above and beyond. That didn't take head smart, that took heart. Another example of that is, many people in your audience are football fans, and they've seen a football team or a basketball team. One team is down 20, 30 points, and it's the last quarter, and there's no way that they could win. But that team rallies together, and they move forward, and they win. And it is pure heart to come from behind to make that kind of effort. And so that's part of the imagination piece, the tool to get to that power within us. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And with the intention that you set for the meeting yesterday, what was your experience like facilitating the call?
To be honest with you, it flowed really well. People were into and understood the prompt, and they had the ability that things just organically flowed.
Yeah.
And part of that was, with any engagement, is creating an environment where people feel safe, where people feel seen and heard.
Yeah, man.
And part of our culture is that we don't see your humanity. We don't hear you.
Thank you for that, man. And that's, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And you had a way, from my experience of you facilitating that call yesterday, I think you did a great job of helping men see their own humanity and how that creativity and imagination sparked them, especially when you had the prompt of how your imagination, I forget what the prompt was, but how your imagination has helped you in a difficult time. And Coach, I'm happy that you're on the call today, because your response to that prompt really got me to settle in, because knowing you, I get the sense that imagination and creativity have been driven by your heart and like what you've envisioned and what you've manifested, man. I'm curious, can you share just some of what your experience was like yesterday responding and tapping into imagination?
Well, I really love the topic, and it is something that I've actually written about and spoken about. And I take a slightly different approach in a way, because I'm a science guy, right? So I try to find the science behind everything. And so here's the question. Well, actually, first of all, let's look at it this way. Everything on this planet that's ever been created started off as a simple idea in somebody's mind. Think about that for a moment. Everything that's ever been created started off as a simple idea in somebody's mind. Now, the question becomes, where did the idea come from? Did the idea come from their brain, this mass of stuff in our heads? Or does it come from a much deeper place, which I'll call the mind? I believe it comes from the mind. Well, what is the mind? The mind is our connection to divine intelligence. Now, for me, divine intelligence, some people may call it God. You may have your own name for it, but I call it divine intelligence. And I believe divine intelligence is the source of ideas. And ideas are the currency of the universe. Ideas are how the universe gets us to create. So think about Martin Luther King, perfect example. So Martin Luther King had a dream, right? That was his big speech about the dream. So the question becomes, where did Dr. King get that dream from? Did it originate in his mind, or as Andrew said, in his heart, which again, I believe heart and mind are interchangeable. Well, I'll assert that I believe it comes from the heart, it comes from the mind. And when we learn to tap into the mind, what happens is we are now able to download ideas from divine intelligence to help us create that which we imagine. So, imagination, again, is just the imaging in of divine ideas. So, I gave the example of when I was homeless, living in my car, and how I had a vision of becoming an author and a speaker. And I had absolutely no evidence to support that I could do that. All I had was an idea in my mind, in my imagination. So I wrote down the things that I envisioned. I want to become an author. I want to become a speaker. Once again, ideas, where did they come from? I believe they come from the mind. So I had this idea, this vision of becoming an author, a speaker, and so forth, which I'm in the backseat of a car. I don't even have a roof over my head, but I had a vision. My imagination says I can create this. Now, it took me several years, but ultimately, everything that I imagined in the backseat of that car when I was homeless, I have manifested. I have created. So for me, again, divine intelligence uses us to create. So we're basically co-creators with divine intelligence. And how divine intelligence gets us to create is to give us divine ideas. Did you get that, Paul?
I did. I was out some of the chat.
Yeah, you dropped off on us.
Yes, I did. I think you were telling the story about how you was it the story that you spoke yesterday?
Yeah.
That you were sharing? Yeah.
Yeah, and how to use imagination to create. And my let's just call it my theory, although I believe it's a fact, but I'll just call it my theory. My theory is that, did you hear the part, Paul, while I said that everything began as an idea in
As a
somebody's
thought?
mind?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So everything begins as a thought, an idea. So the question becomes, where did that come from? Does it come from that little massive brain in our little heads, or does it come from a deeper place? My assertion is it comes from a deeper place. And that deeper place is the mind, which is connected to divine intelligence. And so when we learn to tap into divine intelligence, what it does is ideas are the currency of the universe. And it is how divine intelligence gets us to co-create with it. Right. So when we are using our imagination, what we're doing is we're imaging in the divine ideas that the divine intelligence is wanting us to co-create with it. So imagination is the vehicle through which we communicate with divine intelligence. That's how I see it.
Brother, yeah, I know that's big because, man, you got Andrew sweating over here, man. He's like, dang, man, these deep questions. These deep questions, man. These questions.
Bruh, that's for other reasons, and we will discuss that in the debrief session.
Yeah, no, I just like, you know, in the BKC, we like to have fun here and bust chops. Listen, before we go on, if you have questions or comments about what we're talking with here with imagination, please share them in the comments section so we can answer those. And also, if you're watching us on the replay, #replay. Coach, I want to come back to something that you said, which I think is so important, is that imagination comes from a thought, and where's that rooted from? And some of the things which I thought Andrew did a masterfully beautiful job in facilitating yesterday was to I sense that men got to really tap into what drives the imagination. What is it that and also what I thought was so brilliant that Andrew that you did was you gave men the opportunity to explore how they tap into imagination. Like, how does that happen? And I'm sharing for the people that are watching this, I invite you, please answer, either write in your own journal or write in the comments. what are the ways that you tap into your imagination? What are the things that you dive into that you capture? Coach, Coach and Andrew, I'm curious for you guys. We talk about how imagination, like it's rooted in something. But I'm curious, like once that thing is rooted, how do you see imagination playing into action to create, to bring what you've imagined to life? Like how do you see that coming into play?
Jump on that, Mr. Chairman of Common Sense. Jump in there, baby. Jump in there.
We're going to have a long afterwards discussion.
Oh, we in trouble, Coach. Coach, we in trouble now, boy.
Well, let me paint a picture for you.
Sure.
Oh, lovely. Um, all day long, I get no calls, and now when I'm taking care of business, I get calls left and right here.
Yeah.
So, when I was fortunate enough to get accepted into college, my biggest dream was to go into radio. That was just a strong passion of mine. I had no real experience, but I knew that I could do it. And so I found the campus station, and I went in and I said, "Hey, I want to be a DJ." And it was a PWI. Get my point? Okay, so they looked at predominantly white institution.
Yeah.
And so,
Coach is like, oh.
and so I went in, and they looked at me like, and they said, "Well, young fella, you're going to have to audition." I said, "No problem." They put me in the studio, and there was this guy who was like, long time operations person, and he gave me an assignment, and I did it and blew him out of the water. He just sat there like, "Oh my God, you're good," and hired me. So the point is that they only had one opening, which was for a top 40 disc jockey, which is lightweight stuff for me. I'm a jazz guy. But I went and took that opportunity and turned it around, where I ultimately had my own jazz segment for 4 hours. Also because of where my heart was, which was to bring quality music, quality understanding, and education about America's original art form, otherwise known as jazz, to the community. And at the same time, I brought in herds of Black and brown people into the station that never would have had that opportunity, where if I didn't have that foot in the door. So for me, it was a heart issue, a passion. Passion comes for me, comes from the heart, to push through so many obstacles. And I ultimately, number one, became the program manager of the station. I instituted for the very first time in the station's history. At that time, it was Black History Week, so to let you know how far back it goes, where I had Black music programming for the entire week, and the racial head of that campus went in an uproar. But the interesting thing, and I'll end with this, is that my partner in that was a brother from Newark, New Jersey. He paid his way. He was paying his way through college as a dishwasher. I said, "Are you interested in radio?" He said, "No, I want TV." I said, "Yeah, right." So an opening came up for an engineering position at the station. I connected him with it. He got the job. We hung out together for those 4 years. I taught him everything I knew about programming and Black music. That gentleman, his name is Cephas Bowles. And if you're a jazz person, you'll know that he became the president and CEO of WBGO FM 88 Jazz Radio, the jazz pearl in National Public Radio's crown, and it's based in Newark, New Jersey.
Yep. Yep. Bless up.
So all heart, all heart.
All heart.
So, Man, bless up, Coach. I want to hear from you a second. And Andrew, I want to highlight something that I heard you say. Because I heard you use imagination to take this opportunity that you had in the top 40 segment, even though you didn't tell us how exactly, but you used that imagination to start to weave in your gift and your strength of bringing in that jazz segment, then bringing in the programming about at that time Black History Week. Listen, this is what I'm talking about, which I think is so powerful about what you created yesterday in that circle. It's about awakening activating imagination to address and excel, like to address any, like, okay, you got a circumstance, this is how you're going to address it. And then, okay, you have a circumstance, this is how you excel using your imagination. So bless up to you. Thank you for that example, man. I think that's powerful, and I'm so happy that people got to hear that.
And
um
and I'm not going to let you slide.
mm-hmm.
I like the word that you use, activate.
Yeah.
That's a powerful word, because if you connect what you said, the word activate, and you connect the principles that Coach Taylor mentioned about Dr. King and divine intelligence.
Mm.
When you read Tavis Smiley's book on Dr. King, he goes into what was that burning fire, that fuel that painted everything that Dr. King did. It was one word: love. And where does love originate from? From the heart. And it was that love that pushed him through the bombing of his home where his wife and children were. It pushed him to love that woman in Harlem, Black woman in Harlem, that stabbed him when he was giving a talk on his book. And to keep moving forward, it was that love, that picture for a beloved community. That's all heart, that's all love,
True
from
words, bro.
from what I've seen in studying history.
True words. Yeah, his heart was strong, man, because, like, I mean, I think at this point it's well documented. Like, well, now they would call it mental health concerns, but he was a depressed man.
Who,
He was,
who wouldn't be, if every day you've got death threats in
bruh.
the deep South and your family? I mean, did you know that Dr. King carried a 38? The Prince of
No,
Peace carried a 38, and he had guns in different places in his house for protection. I mean, 1955, brother. That was before you were born. But
yep.
1955 was a whole different period.
Damn.
It was the wild, wild west, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Damn, bro. Thank you for that. Coach, coming to you. Like, what are the ways that you see imagination, imagination sparking action, like, or working with action?
Well, but here's the piece I think that's missing specifically for men and
Yes.
men of color specifically. One of the reasons we do men's work is to get in touch with how we feel. Okay. If you're going to use your imagination, you also have to connect it to your intuition. What is intuition? Intuition is a feeling. It's an inner knowing without knowing how you know. So when we learn to tap into our hearts, because this is the source of it all, when we learn to tap into our hearts and we get the divine idea that I'm talking about, then we activate the desire to manifest that divine idea. So how do we do that? How do we get into action? We have to start paying attention to our intuition. Our intuition is what guides us to next steps. It is our intuition that gives us, or shall I say, attracts to us the synchronistic events that will lead us to our divine purpose, to our divine creation. Perfect example. I'm sitting in the back of this car. That's where I live. That's my home.
Yeah.
I'm writing in my journal. I will become a best-selling author. Okay. So I have the idea. Okay. I'm using my imagination. I'm beginning to see myself as an author. I'm imagining myself on Oprah Winfrey. I'm imagining myself. You guys remember the show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous?
Yep. Robin Leach, baby. Robin Leach.
I'm imagining myself being interviewed by Robin Leach. I'm imagining myself in stadiums with thousands of people. It's just all in my imagination. Now, what did I have to do? I had to learn how to become a self-published author. And the action that I had to take is I went to the bookstores. I learned the publishing industry. Okay. But the whole time I had the vision, the action, but it was all driven by my intuition, that inner knowing that I was on the right path. Now, interesting story. When I wrote my first book, what you had to do back in the day, you had to take what's called a query letter. So you'd write a query letter, you'd send it to the publishers, and if they were interested, they'd respond, and then you sent them your manuscript. Okay? Now, I sent a query letter to 60 different publishers. 60. I remember specifically 60 publishers. I got 59 rejections. 59 rejections. The very last person on the list, and it was probably an 8-month period from the time I sent out the query letters to getting all the rejections, about an 8-month period. The 8th month, the last person who hadn't responded sends me a letter. We'd like to talk to you about your book. Okay. So now I was in an apartment now. I wasn't living in the back of my car at the time. So this person sends me a letter. I call him up and the lady says, I really liked your book. She says, I really liked your book. And she says, now, please don't take this the wrong way, but our research shows that Black men don't buy these types of books. It was a book on personal development for Black men, right? She said, Black men don't buy these types of books. So if you're willing to change the title and make a few changes inside of the book, she says, I'd love to publish your book. Now, at the time, I could have used that little $2,500 advance or whatever they give you when you sign up, with a publishing company. But that would have been out of integrity with myself. Because I told her, look, I said, that's like asking a father to change his child's name. Because the book was titled, Brothers, Are You Listening? A Success Guide for the 90s. And it was a book for Black men about personal development. Well, once again, imagination. I said, okay, I passed on the deal. I didn't take the deal. I said, so I got to figure out how to self-publish. Once again, using your imagination, I'm going, okay, so what do I need to do? Well, I had to learn the publishing industry. Got a job in a bookstore to learn how to publish books. Fast forward now, I published 12 books, and it all began with a guy sitting in the back seat of a car who used his imagination to envision himself becoming an author, and then taking the steps, taking the action to make it happen, learning the publishing industry, getting the job at the bookstore, working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet so I could raise the money to publish the book myself. But I also listened to my intuition, which guided me along the way. And that's the piece that as men, most of us don't connect to, because that's an important piece, because our intuition is simply the nudges from the universe that will tell us where we need to go next. And if we don't learn how to listen to that, we'll miss the synchronistic events that'll start showing up in our lives.
True words.
It's a really important piece. So that's kind of how I used my imagination to create my version of an extraordinary life as a writer and a speaker, and coming from basically nothing.
Man, Coach, you know what? And I failed to mention this yesterday. Um, when I hear your experiences, man, I get so inspired. Uh, and I want to share specifically on what I'm hearing that I want to make sure is relayed in this recording. And Andrew, you touched on this as well. Is For those that are watching and or the replay or live, you notice how Coach said like I am a best-selling author. Like you were in the experience, and I think an important part to know about imagination is all is mind. So as soon as a person can start to use their mind, and especially when it's driven, like what they're imagining is driven by their heart, their spirit, their soul, that experience and what you imagine can become real. Now the great thing about this is that when we start to conjure up this imagine, when we start to when we activate this imagination, then we can begin to see ourselves, truly see ourselves in the experience that we're seeking. So as Coach was saying, like, you know, I'm seeing myself on Oprah. I'm seeing myself with Robin Leach with his funky accent, sitting in my Rolls Royce with my freaking with my velvet couch. You know, like you're seeing these things, and maybe it's something different, Coach. I don't know, but I'm just saying this for the people. This is a very important. This is science. And when we're talking to men of color, this is one of the reasons why we want you to understand your imagination is important, especially when you're imagining your greatness applied in this collective, in this world. When you can start thinking about what are the things that you do well, where are the places that, as Andrew, you mentioned, I think it was Andrew, Coach, your instinct is activated when those things are happening. That's soul guide, that's guidance from the divine, the all, however you want to label it, that's taking your imagination and starting to move you in the direction that you imagined. You're changing your frequency based on your imagination. And like Coach, that's what I'm hearing when I hear you talk about this, and Andrew, you were talking about this before. There's our mind can begin to pull these experiences into real life when the imagination becomes clear and rooted in the heart. I just want to make sure that people are aware of this, guys. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on top of that, but that's just a lot of what I'm hearing right now from the both of you and what I experienced yesterday.
Well, Paul, you hit on something extremely important and what we're talking about in a lot of ways is manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
What is manifestation? Manifestation is simply taking something from the spiritual and bringing it into the material.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a simple way to look at it. You're taking something from your mind and you're creating it in this reality. Okay,
Right.
and what you just said is an important word, which is frequency. Now, what does frequency mean?
Let them know, Coach.
What are we talking about? We live in an energetic universe. Okay, and the law of attraction, if you're familiar with the term, basically says like attracts like. So as I was imagining becoming an author and imagining and dreaming about being on stage, being on Oprah, being on, with Robin Leach, what we have to be willing to do is generate the feeling of what it would feel like if I had accomplished what I was dreaming about. So think about this. Most people will go into fear thinking about becoming successful. Yeah. The energy is fear. So guess what happens if we're generating the energy of fear? We're going to attract things that make us feel fearful. But if we can imagine what it's going to feel like, you know how in spiritual circles, I think that's why Jesus said, whatever you ask in my name, you shall receive. So what he was saying is, if you ask in my name, if I have a vision and I say, okay, God, let's do this thing. Well, it's really God telling me that he wants me to do it anyway. So if I can get into the feeling space of what it's going to feel like when, because now I'm telling the universe that I'm serious, that I've paid attention to the divine idea. And so by generating the feeling of what it was going to feel like when I became successful, when I was living in the back of the car, that's what gave me the fuel to overcome all the obstacles that were in front of me.
Mm. Mm.
You get that?
I do.
So I had a feeling like I was so excited. I was like, man, it's like, okay, it's done. You know, there's a wonderful story if you're spiritual and you're into religion a little bit. And I love this story that in the Bible where the centurion goes up to Jesus and says, my son is sick. And I'd love for you to heal my son, right? And Jesus says, okay, let's go to your house and I'll heal your son. And the centurion tells Jesus, no, you don't have to go. I know you have the power to heal him. And Jesus said, never have I seen such faith. Right? So what he was saying is when we have that much confidence that the universe is going to support us in what we're asking, it comes from a feeling, a knowing inside of our hearts that, yes, this is doable. This is what's possible for us. So again, it comes down to imagination, which is the divine idea. It comes down to following and trusting our intuition, because it is our intuition that's going to guide us to next steps. And then it comes down to action. What are we going to do to manifest this in this reality?
Damn, Coach. Thank you for that, man. Thank you. I want to acknowledge. Thank you for those that are watching live. Thank you for those watching on the replay. #replay. Coach, that was brilliant. And I want to, man, you gave the pathways to getting there, and I want to acknowledge Michael Peoples' comment. We value the opinions of others more than our own instinct, which I think is one of the things that thwarts imagination.
Absolutely.
We can say, and like it damages frequency. Michael, thank you so much for bringing that up, because I think that's the piece that curtails the imagination of folks. They're like, well, this is too big, or like, well, I don't know what they would think. It doesn't matter what they think or what's happening on the other side. The thing is this is your divine instruction when you have that imagination or that instinct on something. So Michael, thank you for bringing that, man. Thank you for acknowledging that. Andrew, I want to check in with you because I saw there were some moments when Coach was speaking. Like I saw that you had some reflections and some deep thoughts. I was checking in. Did you want to share, or did some other stuff come up that you want to share?
You guys are always fun to have a conversation. you, you don't miss anything, but that's okay. That's okay. The time will come after this show, bro. I tell you right now. But well, number one, I want to acknowledge Michael Peoples on his comment. We value the opinions of others more than our own instincts. And for me, that reminds me of the quote that goes, uh, opinions are like armpits. Everybody has them.
Mm.
And in this culture, from my experience, we have allowed the culture to rob us of our independent thinking, to explore areas, to look into areas that the culture says, no, that's not hip to do. And so I'm just very appreciative of Coach bringing up the story in the Bible and Jesus, and I'm just reminded of just the entire uh, argument of head, brain, mind, heart, and while we were just discussing here, I went and did a quick research, and the word mind is mentioned approximately 300 times in the Bible. The word, excuse me, the word brain, I think is right. The head, no, the word head is mentioned about 300 times. The word mind is mentioned about 96 times. But the word heart is mentioned over 1,000 times. So if we have folk in the audience, and most people do are people of faith and read and study the Bible. So if the divine, which Coach mentioned, which I call God, puts an emphasis on the heart 1,000 times, that's perhaps something we need to pay attention to.
But yeah, and I think what Michael people brought up is really important, especially from a black male perspective, because he says we value the opinion of others more than our own instincts, and I'll speak to that specifically because for most of my life I've been accused of being a sellout, Uncle Tom, simply because of how I think. Okay, because I've never bought into this victim mentality. And I know that in a lot of cases, we think we're helping ourselves by telling us to you can't do that because that's what white people do. There's this mentality that we sometimes hold on to, and it kind of points to what Michael is saying. We're listening to people outside of us, but when we learn to tap into our imagination, it's just between us and divine intelligence. We can't listen to people outside of us because the people outside of us, they have their own limited ideas and beliefs. But when we connect and tap into divine intelligence, nothing is impossible. Everything that's ever been accomplished that we would consider amazing began as somebody that had a vision, and it was something that only they could see. But they listened to, they trusted something in them. Okay. I love the story of Oprah Winfrey. If you don't know the story, she was raped at 13 or something, had a kid. I mean, just tragedy. And yet look at where she ended up. How did she get there? She trusted her intuition.
Yep.
She didn't listen to other people.
Yep.
And that is one of the things that we have to be willing to do, especially as men of color, because too many times we're putting shackles on ourselves.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
can't do that anymore.
Nah, true, man. True words. And listen, you know what? Silver Black Bear coming in with the goody goods. He's bringing in some hermetic principles, and I think this is mentioned in the Bible too. Like, based in as much words, the universe is mental, all is mind. Silver Black Bear also goes in to say when, and we all you both were talking about this today. When one changes their mind, they can change their reality. Okay, and this is where the mind gets mental, and where in what we're talking about, your imagination, the intuition, your frequency. These are all a lot. These all begin with a thought. They all begin with thought. It's a thought.
And Paul, I mean, but think about one of the most powerful comments in the Bible. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of what? Your mind. Be
Mm.
not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Amen, brother.
That's it.
Well, respectfully and with love, I think it's important that we be careful about cherry picking, because there are also other references that where Jesus says, "I stand at the door of your heart and knock to come in," and that is because we are spiritual beings, and if God is knocking at our heart, He's not saying, "I'm knocking at your hard head." He says, he says, I'm knocking at your heart. But let me just share this story with you. Most of you, well, I'm a movie buff, and so there's a movie called, I think it's called Hacksaw Ridge, which was a true story. Okay, you remember it, and that's the story of a conscientious objector. and he would not carry a weapon. And the army just beat him down, like you gonna carry a weapon, and he stood his ground. So he became a medic, and he was on an assault force where they had to take this huge territory, and all the men were pinned down. People were killed left and right. He was the only one there, and because of his heart, his passion for his unit, his courage, and courage comes from the heart. His heart allowed him to save not one, but 75 men owe their lives to this conscientious objector. So I ask, was that a head issue or a heart issue? In war, where your life, it's a whole different ball game when either your life is in danger or you have to protect somebody else's life. And I've been in those situations where someone was going to get killed. I was shot at. I was in law enforcement, so don't hold that. Don't judge me. I I needed I needed I needed money, right?
All
So
good, man.
and I was shot at. So did I panic? Did I protect? But I protected and looked out for my partner, and we got home, and I'm here to talk about it. Okay, I so I could just tell you a host of stories going into a school that there was a bomb threat, getting those kids out, but I'm rushing into the danger. That's not a head issue. That's a heart issue to protect and to save others. So it's a bigger issue. So we want to be careful on how we cherry pick and things. So just a story to share.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate, and the question that comes up for me is it one or the other or both end? Like, so is it the heart or the head, or is it both? Right? Because like when I'm hearing about the story about Heartbreak Ridge, yeah, you gotta have heart to be able to save 75 men and not carry a weapon. And you gotta have some mind and thought process to have the strategy to even carry that out. You follow? So I think there's this thing where, and maybe this is part of the reprogramming or rewiring, where we start talking about how do we use our head, our heart, and our head to activate this imagination and really tap into intuition rather than just saying the mind, because they're both powerful. But they're even talking about the longest journey you'll ever travel is from your head to your heart,
Paul,
right? Yeah.
Paul, tonight you win the Finger of Fate award because you're absolutely right. It is what I call the alignment, which is head, heart, and soul, spirit. The alignment of all of that. The alignment. Are you in a? And ask the question: am I in alignment with my divine assignment? And so,
Ooh.
so the culture just says here, but that's not all of it. We've got a trap door here. We got to get out. You've heard the phrase, get out of your head and into your heart.
Yep.
That's it. So it's the alignment with my divine assignment, which is the inner power, the inner energy that comes outward towards others and attracts them to my truth, my authenticity. And that's what people are looking for. And I don't mean to get relational here, but most of the brothers can relate that when they're talking with a woman, they're really asking the question. They never verbalize the question, but in the back of their head, they're asking, "Can I trust you? Are you safe?" That's the question that most brothers are asking. Can I trust you? Because I want to be able to share what's inside of me and be safe when I do that. And
Mm.
when that is violated, a brother will never speak again, will never open up again.
That's a whole nother live conversation.
Bruh, coach, you just took the words right out of my mouth, bro. I was like,
That's a
oh,
whole nother live conversation.
oh, bruh.
So Paul, jump in here with Mr. Silver Blackbeard because he's dropping some nuggets in here, and he says,
Brother.
"I am the way, the truth, and the light. Understand, I is you. You are the light, pure consciousness yourself." Now, I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
And again, that's the point that I was making when I was talking about connecting to divine intelligence.
Yeah.
Because divine intelligence uses us to express itself.
Indeed.
So divine intelligence gives us the divine idea. The question becomes, will we activate it? Will we grab onto it and then take the necessary steps to manifest it?
Yeah, coach, and that's the big question. And that's the big ask of men and of people in general, right? It's like basically, are you willing? Are you willing? Like, because this intuition, like Silver Blackbeard is saying, you are the light, you're pure consciousness yourself. The thing that's getting away is you. This thing that's getting in the way is you. The thoughts of like, what are other people going to say? Like what, like Michael Peoples was saying, the blocks in our mind and in our heart. Those are the things that stop that stop things, man. Those are the things that prevent us from trusting. Those are the things that can open us up to trust. Like, are we willing to surrender? Are we willing to let go? And yes, we're gonna be doing these lives once a month until, like, we pick things up. So I'm thinking that, especially around Valentine's Day, we're gonna want to bring in that issue that Andrew brought in, was trying to sidetrack us and whatnot. Bringing in that hard copy. See how he does, peoples. Yo, Andrew Mans, that's the mastermind, bro. He got so many thoughts in that beautiful dome of his, boy. Bless up. Yeah, Silver Bear, thank you for your comments. Michael Peoples, thank you for your comments. Man, before we wrap up, Neftari, thank you for your comment. Blessings to you all for watching. Hashtag replay if you're watching the replay, and like, share, and subscribe. Listen, before we wrap up, any last words for the peoples before we wrap?
Yeah, I'll leave with 3 simple letters. TBT. TBT. Thoughts become things. What you think about, you bring about. Now, chew on that one for a while, because that's some wisdom right there.
Bless up. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Dr. Mans.
See, you guys are always raising the bar here. Okay, all right. So I will close with. I tried to be as complete and simple as possible, and leave you with the word pairs. Pairs or peers? Pairs. P-E-A-R, peers. P-E-A-R-S. Pride, ego, arrogance, stubbornness. Those are the 4 elements that allow us or prevent us from seeing what we need to see, and from feeling what we need to feel to take effective and decisive action. So let's be involved with the practice of ego subjugation, which is the ego in exchange to being other directed. That's the bigger and global picture. And with that, I'm complete, and I'm gonna get you guys on the other side.
Bless up. Yes, indeed. And since everybody's ending with acronyms, I'm going to end up with another one, right? Yeah, acronyms are the letter. Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking antonyms for a second. Acronyms. So B, B, N, M. Be back next month. Tune in next month, okay, when we're going to talk about this topic of, man, can I trust you? Can I trust you? Ooh, child, Andrew, man, you did it again. Thank you so much. And listen, Coach Taylor, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your comments, your wisdom as always. Andrew Mans, thank you for oh man, brother. For men that are watching, men of color that are watching, I highly encourage you to tap in on Saturdays, 12 o'clock to 1:30 p.m. If you go to brotherhoodofkings.com, it's scrolling along the bottom. You'll have access to our Saturday calls. I'm bringing this up, and also Wednesday calls. I'm bringing it up because facilitators like Andrew are lighting it up. They're providing spaces for men to really ask themselves the challenging questions and be supported in we were supported in their responses. It's such a beautiful experience to watch men of color trust each other, support each other, allow each other to ascend, build, think, create, imagine. That's what we got. Check in, tap in, Brotherhood of Kings. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for watching the replay. Like, share, subscribe, and we're out. See you next month. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Adios.
Peace.